I'm Preston Burpo, the goalkeeper coach for the New York Red Bulls. When I got the call to start the process to be with the club, I mean, my excitement was off the charts. I grinded out a long 16-year or so career. Started out in the 3rd division back with the Boston Storm. I made a 9-year career in the 2nd division out there in Seattle, and then jumped into the MLS in 2006.
Guys, morning.
Morning, Burps.
How we doing?
I find it interesting that a guy chooses to go with a bald head, but an unruly beard.
You think this is unruly?
As unruly.
Our coaching staff is great because they're so different. It's such an eclectic group of characters, and I think it makes for a more interesting conversation. When I first got to know Preston during preseason, I noticed his meal, if you'd say, was something I wouldn't eat. And the more and more we got to talking, came out that he's vegan.
So I asked them to speak to you about maybe a taste test of like different kinds of tofu.
And so I actually played with Jesse in 2006 and 2007 at Chivas USA, and that's where I got to know Jesse and understood he's a guy that is very cerebral and understands the game and thinks about everyone within the team each day. And I knew that if I ever had a chance to work with him, the answer was going to be yes. And he obviously eventually got the Montreal job, and once he got that job, he asked me if I wanted to go, and it wasn't even a question of if. It was like, yeah, I'm in. We spent the year together there in 2012, and then I was lucky enough to get a phone call from Ben Olsen, and I made my way to DC for 2013 and 2014.
I didn't really get to know Preston until last year. Of course, I'd seen his name. He'd been in the league for quite some time.
You're all right? You fill out your app this morning?
Did you fill out your app?
When I'd heard that he was in the running for potentially being our next goalkeeper coach, I had the opportunity to talk to Bill about him. And Bill had nothing but positive things to say. Bill Hamid, the 2 years that he'd worked with Preston, he really enjoyed it. And he was almost a little sad to see him go.
I need Orlando edit.
Thank you. To work again with Jesse and Dennis, and now getting to work with Chris Armas side by side. And the whole dynamic in there has been very good to work with. And Jesse wants that. He wants everyone to feel included and feel like this is a family and everyone's loved, and that's definitely part of his philosophy, and everyone buys into that.
Goalkeeping training can be a little tricky. There's always going to be the fundamental principles, but the relationship is so specialized. Right, it's the only position on the team that actually has its own specific coach. So with that comes personalities. But with Preston right off the bat, he's the type that constructs the sort of training that allows us to feel comfortable in our preparation, but also confident.
There you go, good. Good, every time you relax, right?
Yes.
I try to encourage the other guys to encourage each other. I try to pick out the positives and not worry too much about the negatives, because I think the guys understand when they make big mistakes, so there's no need for me to stand over and tell them that.
For a goalkeeping coach at this level, there has to be some sort of credibility, right? And so to look at his credentials and see that he has played in the league, he understands the ins and outs, the nuances, the travel, the whatever you want to call it, that's great. But then also to see that he's had some challenges in his career, and to see how he's dealt with them, how he's progress to the next step, whether it's through play or through injury.
Dane Richards thought he could get it, I thought I could get it, and he poked his foot in there and then caught my leg, and it was just kind of an odd injury. I mean, it was just part of the game, right? I mean, literally within a split second of understanding what my injury was, I knew my career was done at that point. Even in my early 30s, I thought if today was my last day, then that was my last day. I've been asked a couple times about whether I felt like I've come full circle, and it literally never even crossed my mind when the first person asked me that.
And so to be able to talk to someone who's had those sort of experiences, to use as a sounding board, but also to hear what he has to say, not only brings value to the relationship, but more than anything, it brings a lot of confidence that he's not just making something up.
There you go, good. Good stuff, Rainish. Well then, I think if you hold here, You throw it out, I think you're a lot closer than you think you were.
I feel like the entire goalkeeping core, from Ryan to Kyle to myself, has a good standing with Preston because he's the type of guy that engages. He's not just talking at us, he's talking with us. He's very kind, not only in his goalkeepers, but every player on this team.
Good.
Yeah, stuff like that while I'm moving.
Yeah, yeah. Junior, jump in, man. Good, Sean, good.
So that continues to add to the high level of camaraderie that's already found in the locker room and in the coaching staff.
This is just going as quick as you can. Now we've got this thing going at full throttle. You see how great this place is. I mean, this organization really, from the top, says, let's make sure you guys are in the best possible position to be successful. So to be a part of this club today, and hopefully for years to come, would be a very good thing. And that's a wrap, guys. That's all she wrote.